they're not keeping it hidden what their ultimate goal is if we don't say we don't want that, right? And they want us to want it. And they want the children to want it too. That's the thing. They want the children to want this. So again, if you notice, the leitmotif has been very much about hexagons, right? Hive mind, but it's also the most efficient use of space and tiling, which I think is really interesting from a gamification. The Settlers of Catan board game is hexagons, and Uber uses its hexagons to tile the world. So I'll just emphasize that Uber is not a ride-sharing company. Uber is a geofencing company, okay? That's what these companies are. They're not ride-sharing. They're about not letting you on if you're not compliant. It's a geofencing company. Their mobility solutions will take over public transit systems. They will not let you have your own car, and then that's how it's going to go. So again, leveraging data to predict behavior. I just mentioned about the space. They're going to control this stuff from space. There was a Harvard Business Review article early last April that said that they suggested using MacroEyes technology, which I believe is an Israeli company, to use satellite imagery to predict routine immunization from space, African children. This was framed as an equity issue. Okay, so they're already using satellites to track children from space as an equity issue. Right, so that's Harvard Business Review, guys. I mean, this is not a crappy source. This is like they're telling you what they're doing. So again, you guys have the ride sharing, and I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a sci-fi book, there's a book called Rainbow's End by Vernor Vinge. He's a professor emeritus of UC San Diego, math and computing. He was the one who postulated the singularity. He's written a lot of science fiction books. Rainbow's End talks about a near future dystopia of augmented reality, where everyone wears and the world everybody sees differs depending on how they program it. And people aren't allowed to have their own cars. All the cars are autonomous, and you have to be able to be allowed to get in them. I will say, I know there's a lot of back and forth about, the US, China policies. I will just want to reemphasize that a lot of the credit scoring apparatus originated in the United States. And Strive Together has this social emotional learning task force, and I'm trying to remember, Rosenberger, his last name is. I think it's Larry Rosenberger. He's on the social emotional learning task force for Strive Together, and he was the head of the FICO scoring system for 30 years and is now into every behavioral analytics company on every board, right? So if it's one thing to point fingers at China, and certainly they have a situation that allows them to pilot things in ways that are much more seamless, but we also have to kind of, don't throw rocks if you live in a glass house, guys. We started a lot of this, and a lot of it's running through the IEEE, International Electrical Engineers and Engineering Association. They're doing a lot of pilots in China. So they were actually already tracking social credit scoring behavior with people on parole. So imagine you get a workforce pathway, you get a remediation pathway, you're put on it, and then they know by where you check in with your QR code or where you've checked in on digital tablets, where if you're compliant to that program. They also, in China, they had a QR code mobility solution bike, where if you didn't put your bike back in the proper place because people are dropping those scooters and bikes everywhere and littering the sidewalks, they dock you points on your credit score. So these Internet of Things systems are already happening in small ways.